Hi guys. I would like to share my experience with you about refretting a guitar at home. It is not guide how to do it in the right way. It just how I did it. So let's go. First, I pulled out all the frets with a homemade tool from the ruler. Simply cutting the end of the ruler in half, and sharpening the edge slightly to make it easier to drive the ruler onto the fret. Alternatively, you can buy such tool online, or use wire cutters at your own risk. As you can see, the result was not bad. Due to my carelessness, there are 2 chips on the fretboard. But it's not a problem, as these will disappear during the fretboard sanding stage. As sanding beam, I used an aluminum rectangular tube, onto which I glued sandpaper for wood, with a grit of 80 and 120. I also used grit of 320 for polishing. Before sanding, it is necessary to straighten the guitar neck curve with a truss rod, as much as possible. Make sure your straight edge ruler is really straight and doesn't need to be tweaked. Then I marked fingerboard with pencil to have better control while sanding. I started the sanding process using a 120 grit sandpaper to test whether it removes too much wood. In general, the result was predictable. Since in the middle the neck had a deflection a little, there were traces of a pencil. Also, there were some traces of the pencil remained at the top of the fingerboard. Further sanding process took a lot of time, and I decided to use sanding paper with a larger granularity. The sanding process took hours. The biggest problem I had was at the top of the fingerboard. I could not make the pencil marker disappear. Besides, I had to clean the sanding paper very often, because wood dust significantly slowed down sanding. Since my guitar has a multi-radius fingerboard, it presented an additional difficulty. I should always check to ensure that the radius is accurate. By the way, the radius is 12 inches at the head and 15 inches at the bottom. Next time, I will buy a 15-inch radius beam and use it to create a single radius for the entire fingerboard, as I see no sense of the multi-radius. Rough sanding has been completed, and the next step is to polish the surface with 320 grit sandpaper. The fretboard is now ready for installing the frets. First, I have measured the depth of the fret slots. The depth was more than enough. Then I cut each piece of fret wire slightly bigger than the fretboard where it is to be installed. For this purpose I used multifunctional tool, because my wire cutters were not sharp enough for the job. To remove the tang on both sides of the fret, I also used multi-tool. I was able to complete the job relatively quickly. I was surprised, because I didn't need to finish every fret with a file after using the multi-tool. It's time to install the frets. I used wood glue because it can be easily cleaned up with water. I avoided using super glue, and I'm happy with my decision. It's also possible to install the frets without any glue. But I was concerned that they will be wobble in the slot. Therefore, I didn't want to take a risk and install the frets without glue at all. I have found that a piece of wood is more effective at pressing the frets than with a hammer. But it takes effort, so for the next time I would buy a cheap press tool from AliExpress. I pressed with all my strength, sometimes with the help of my body weight. It was not easy at all. Almost always it was necessary to adjust the height of the fret in relation to the neighboring ones. To reduce the amount of filing and eliminate the need for side beveling, I cut the edges of the fret as much as possible with a multi-tool. On one side of the file, I removed the grain to not scratch the fingerboard while rounding the frets. To smooth the ends more efficiently, I would recommend using a dressing file that is more compatible with this purpose, not such as mine. Before leveling the frets, it should not be forgotten to straighten the guitar neck. For the fret sanding I use 240 and 320 grit sandpaper. I overdid the fret leveling, and removed more metal than necessary. Therefore, it's important to be extra careful at this stage. While crowning the frets, I rubbed myself big calluses and cursed for a long time. It would not be worth saving on crowning file and buying a quality tool. I polished these guys out with 1200 grit sandpaper. For the finishing I used a multi-tool with a polishing bit and applied polishing paste to it. Frets should not be overheated when being polished. I am generally satisfied with the result. Some things could have been done better and faster, but they needed special tools like a fret press or a radius beam. I would also buy better quality files. I hope you found the video informative and enjoyable. Don't hesitate to leave a comment if you have any feedback. Thank you for watching.